Heated shenanigans, working stiffer than mannequins. Vader time like a mannequin, mega powers, I'm savage and peep the babbling. Got him shook off the verbal acumen. I'm the main event, meaning nobody coming after him. The topics we be tackling, ankle locking and tapping them. I hate seafood, but I might throw the Boston crab on him. You know sometimes it gets heated. You know sometimes it gets heated.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Heated Shenanigans Podcast. I am joined today, as you can see, by one of the most legendary members of professional wrestling tag teams. That is, of course, Bushwhacker Luke of the legendary Bushwhackers. Welcome to the podcast.
Whoa, good day, Scott, and I'm proud to be on your show, mate. Looking forward to going down memory lane.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Luke, it's Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I wanted to wish you an early, happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you, mate. Now, don't turn the turkey around, mate, and stuff it.
Well, Luke, I want to say again, thank you so much for joining me today. And getting into it here, Luke, what was the inspiration or whose idea was it for the legendary Bushwhacker walk to the ring? Because that is one of the most remembered things throughout professional wrestling.
That's correct, mate. You know, people later on in life, wrestlers are not remembered from their ring experience. They're remembered from their character. And that's one thing that we remembered. As Jesse Ventura used to say, here comes the marching maniacs. Butch today, when we were villains, up to 88, we were the sheep herders. Well, we've been villains in North America since 72 when we came to North America, Canada first. Anyhow, when we were outside the ring and between the fencing and the ring, and when we were villains, we always swung up our arms and went, whoa, yay, to try to scare the fans, right? And my partner said to me, let's use that, do a continuous march to the ring and do the whoa and the yay. That's what he said to me. And I said to Butch, I said, my bloody shoulders are shot. And he put his nose right on my nose, and we've got big beaks. And he says to me, do you want to make money?
Say to this day, people remember that fondly. You guys coming down to the ring, so animated, into it, interacting with the fans. It was great.
Yeah, and all the fans, in the late 80s and early 90s, in a football NFL game, when they went over the touchline, they'd do our march in the end zone. That's how it got over that, how strong at that time.
Well, one person, Luke, I don't know if you know this or not, that you and I have as a mutual friend is Dylan Hines.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know that you knew Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He does some podcast work with us on Spotify.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a son of my good buddy going right back to the 1980-81, Bobby Fulton. That's when I met him, I think in 1980-81 in Tennessee, the dad.
Yeah, Bobby
and I gave Bobby, I was a booker for Joe Blanchard in 83-84, and I gave his first break as a main event, Bobby.
Wow.
Yeah, scaffold match. I still remember the scaffold match.
You did a scaffold match with him?
No, I didn't do it with him, but I booked him in a scaffold match for Southwest Championship Wrestling.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Go right back to that. Now I work for him. He runs, him and his son run Chillicothe, Ohio, twice a year. And they have a great attendance, usually 3,000 to 3,500 people at night for the wrestling show, and around 6,000 people during the day for the Fan Fest.
I think so highly of Dylan and his father. They're both phenomenal people, and I was very happy to know that we had a mutual friend in you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome. Well, I wanted to ask you, Luke, Over the course of your career, what would you say is the best story you have seen told in a wrestling ring? Not necessarily a match, but the psychology of what was going on.
Well, the two best guys, I'd say, going way back in that, and I saw this match numerous times. Jake the Snake and Ted DiBiase, Million Dollar Man. Now, this was when they were working for Mid-South, for Bill Watts. And that was, at that time, that was one of the biggest territories in the country, apart from NWA out of Charlotte. But their matches were phenomenal, you know. And of course, Flair and Steamboat, they had some exceptional good matches too. But I saw the other one so many times, because we were doing 8 days, or some weeks 8 shows a week and that, and at least you'd see 3 or 4 times, I'd see that match. And that different matches they did together. Poor old Jake, he went down he got caught up in the dark for quite a while, but he had a great brain for the business.
One of the sharpest minds professional wrestling has ever seen.
Yes, and an incredible promo too, if you know where it was coming from.
Very true, very true. Luke, what would you say is one lesson that you learned in your career in professional wrestling that you didn't expect to learn? And how did it change your career after you learned it?
I'm still, I'm still learning. This business has changed so many times. I got in the business in '62, and it was, I never knew what professional wrestling was. Early '61, I never heard of professional wrestling. I never saw a match. We never had TV to '68, and we never had wrestling on television till the wide world of sport from England. That used to come in Sunday afternoon, way back when. But I didn't even know what professional wrestling was, and I'd only seen one match before I got a pair of boots thrown at me and told me I was in the ring. You know what I'm saying? So, and I can't remember that match, but that's going back to 1962. I've learned a lot in life. I was over working British style, no high spots, mat wrestling and that. It was 4 ropes and on a boxing ring. And that's how we started. It wasn't until Jim Barnett, I went to Australia. Jim Barnett opened WCW in Australia in 1965. You ever heard of Jim Barnett?
I have not, no.
Oh, Jim Barnett was the promoter who got Ted Turner to put wrestling up on the satellite. WTBS, they had wrestling on the satellite in '75, '76, and that was Jim Barnett was a friend of Ted Turner who got him to put it up on the satellite. Hence, Tommy Rich and Rick Martel and all those stars were made then, being seen on satellite right throughout the country. Anyhow, when I went to Australia to work for Jim Barnett in 1965, then I learned, a different psychology altogether. Instead of going from hold to hold and just going and no storyline, and then all of a sudden we stayed on an arm, British style, either worked a leg or an arm. But when we come to American, it was pound and ground. Pound the ground, a few high spots, but Jim Barnett had heavy artillery over there. In the '60s, he had all the heaviest artillery in the world. And the baby faces, good-looking baby faces. Rick Martel was about 19 when he was there. Don Morocco, 230 pound, and Mark Lewin. Mark Lewin's 80 now, and Mark Lewin was very young then. I'm talking about the '60s. All
Wow.
good-looking guys with good bodies, and the heels looked like heels. Tanaka and Fuji, Walter von Erich and Fritz von Erich, Abdullah the Butcher, all heavy artillery. Heavy, heavy wrestlers. King Curtis. You heard of King Curtis, right? Yeah. So they were all heavy, and then the baby faces fought from underneath, came up shining, and then bang, they stole the show. But it was the guys that pounded them, and people thought there was no hope for them, and then they come out of the blue. That's when I learned the American style.
Man.
And that's when Butcher Me became a name. When we first come over here, we learned, we came to Montreal at the start in 1972. 1969, 1970, Gene Ferree, Andre the Giant, come to New Zealand. He hadn't come to the shores of North America yet, and because he was from France, and he'd worked Europe and UK. UK, London, Britain, Wales, Scotland, etc. And then he came down to New Zealand, and we worked with him. Butcher Me did handicap matches with him for about 2 months around New Zealand, and then he came over to North America to Grand Prix in 1971, and they were only running one town at the time. And we came over in 72 for the same promoters, and they were running 3 towns a night. He became such a big star, in Quebec and Ontario, just such a big star. And when we came in there, that was the hottest promotion in North America. They had all the top talent there was working there into North America, and we're doing sellouts. All the hockey rinks for sellouts every night. We worked. The promoters were the Vachons, Butcher Vachon and Maurice Vachon, and their partner was Edward Carpentier, who did the French on WWF TV. When they were doing, he did the French on that. But he'd
Wow.
worked on top of Madison Square Gardens in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, Edward Carpentier. And of course, the Vachons were well known, Mad Dog Vachon and Butcher Vachon. And that was our first territory. And funny part is, as soon as they came in, the main heel was Killer Kowalski, who we'd known in Australia since 1965. He's the guy that blew Australia wide open for Jim Barnett, the promoter, Killer Kowalski. He did an angle on the television there, and that's what popped Australia wide open. And then the main babyface in Grand Prix was the Giant, and the Vachons and Edward Carpentier. So we were locked up with them in tag matches, and that most of our tour there for a year and a half. That was a great break we had, working with main eventers every night.
Man, and to think like it all started from that, and then it just kind of snowballs into what we have today with professional wrestling. Like,
Yeah. We did all the territories, mate. We did the second territory work. Then we never heard of Stu Hart, never heard of Stampede. One of the most notorious territories in North America, Stu Hart. And that was our second territory, and then that was another story altogether. I could tell you a little story at the start if you want to hear it.
oh, please do.
Okay, they said that after a year and a half, 2 years in Grand Prix, we could have to start beating you, or we can move you on and bring you back. And we said, well, they said we'd rather move you out and bring you back. Okay, so they said we're sending you to a territory in Calgary, Alberta called Stampede. Fuck, that didn't mean a thing to us. Because we never had wrestling magazines or anything like that, right? And this was 1972. 73. So we go across there. The first night is in the pavilion. Now, the showgrounds in Calgary, there's 2 arenas. There's a big arena that held 12,000, the corral, and there was a pavilion where they did it every Friday night. They take television from it, and they ran it at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. Okay, we arrived there. The booker is Archie Goldie, the Mongolian Stomper. And that we arrived there, we don't even know the promoter. He's not there, anything and that. And So we're in the dressing room. We get told our finish for the last match. We're the second to last match. Abdullah's the last match against somebody local, one of the local heroes there. Okay, we do our finish of our match. We get the champions and we get DQ'd. We pull out a dog chain, nail the bows, they get colour, so a little blood, or a lot of blood, and we put the boot to them. While we're putting the boot to them, 2 kids get thrown in. Between 10 and 13, maybe 10 or 11, 2 kids get thrown in. And the guy outside to us says, "Put the boots to them, champ. Put the boots to them." So we put the boots to them because we know who the guy is outside. Anyhow, so we put the boots to these 2 kids. Next minute, 2 more kids get thrown in, but these 2 kids are bleeding. These 2 kids are bleeding. So he's yelling out, "Put the boots to them." Now there's 4. There's the 2 champions and there's 2 kids bleeding. So there's 4 bleeding in the ring and 2 non-bleeding. And we keep putting the boots to them, and then all the referees come out, and we didn't know this. We just got out of the ring. On the way back to the dressing room, there's this 5'10", 5'11" man, thick at the hips. Yeah, maybe 5'10", thick at the hips. I'd say 270, 280. And he says, "What the hell are you doing?" He said, "They're my kids." And we heard about Stu Hart that night, that he talks in a gruff voice. He talks in a voice like that. And he said, "What the hell, man? They're my boys." And we said, "Oh, we just got told to put the boots to them." And they were his kids. They were going around the ring selling programs. Abdullah came out from the dressing room, got them all, put their heads in the post, and threw them in the ring to us. Now, we've known Abdullah for a while, you know what I mean? Because he'd been out in Australia. Anyhow, that was Friday night. That was showing on Saturday morning. All those kids were known on television because they've been selling programs on the show for years, walking around the crowd while the matches are on. You know what I mean? So they've been on television all the time. So this weekend, 3 times a year, Stu runs the pavilion on Friday night, and he comes back for a double on Sunday in the corral. And we didn't know that this weekend we came in, it was a double. So Saturday night we drove to Edmonton, 200 miles away. That was on those days. The tapes were bicycled. That was a week. They wouldn't see us kicking the hell out of the kids till the week later, because those tapes were bicycled around the territory. Do you understand what I mean? They were seen a week later. But then we came back on Sunday in the corral in the same grounds as the pavilion, and all the people, they were throwing stuff into the wild. Now we had heat, but we didn't have drawing heat. If they put us on top, we wouldn't have drawn a house. But the people have seen us for the first time and were mad at us. You know what I mean? It takes you 4 to 6 weeks to get that heat where you can draw a house. If you're good at doing what you do. And
You got it.
that was our first night for Stu Hart. A lot of incidents that happened there. If I started telling you stuff that happened there, we'd be on all night. For rips, pranks. The Hart kids were good at doing pranks on different wrestlers.
Let's say we'll definitely do a follow-up to this. I know you're pressed on time, and I definitely appreciate you giving me the time for this episode. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up here, guys. I want to thank Bushwhacker Luke for being an incredible guest. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next week, everybody.